Welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, where today we will have part 2 of our discussion of Chapter 8 of Observing the Craft, the Observant Lodge.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our thoughts and opinions are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions via our website at theworkingtoolspodcast.com.
Today on the Working Tools Podcast, we have myself. I'm Matt Appel, a member of Mill Creek Lodge number 243 in Montlake Terrace, Washington. Worshipful Brother Jarrod Dunham from Penticton number 147 in Penticton, BC. Very worshipful Brother David Colbeth, who's a member of King Solomon number 60 in Auburn, Washington. And Worshipful Brother Stephen Chung from Prince Charles number 153 in lovely Kelowna, British Columbia. So we sort of left off. Apparently, Jarrod disputes the. I'm not sure if it's the part that it's part of British Columbia or that it's lovely, but there's something about my statement there that Jarrod does not agree with. So we sort of left off, having not finished discussing the whole chapter. Shockingly, I know that we managed not to get through a whole topic in one episode. But I guess the part that I feel like we didn't discuss at all was how the Observant Lodge interacts with the outside world part. I guess it starts about, I don't know, chapter 140 or so in my book. What did you guys think of that part? There's like a brief discussion of charity and of stuff.
Well, I mean, I like his line. Where's that? I had it posted here. See, if I'd known you were going there. Yeah. Non-Masons have no business at any Masonic assemblies. I like that.
And I couldn't help but think of David's commentary about having meetings or events outside of the lodge building into which you would have petitioner, or whatever you want to call them, postulants, and things inside the lodge room, which even though in the
postulants. Sorry. Whenever I see that word, I think of
I don't think he's I don't think he's specifically talking about seekers.
You don't?
No. I think he's talking more about the impression I got, and this is going to get me in trouble, like everything I say, is that he's talking because the impression I get from this, because he says later in the next, when I flip over the next page, is what belongs to the craft is for the craft and the craft alone. You know, he talks about repeatedly offer programs in its meetings with no Masonic content. I honestly believe that it's the inviting, like
bringing the mayor in to talk about.
Yeah, well, I'm even going so far as meeting, right? Other family members, open installations. No, that's not for them. It's for us, not them.
He didn't say installations, but I did get that impression.
Yeah. Like
we love our open installation though.
And you're not an observant lodge, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I disagree.
You disagree that that you think you are an observant lodge, or that there's something?
Both. I mean, I couldn't say that we're maybe at Andrew Hammer standard observant lodge, but I think we're getting there.
Right.
I think we would like. There's been some changes and developments that have.
Why? Okay, I'm going to ask this question. Yeah. Why do you feel it's necessary to have other people at an installation?
I don't know that it's necessary, but we enjoy it because it allows the public and or specifically our family members to be participatory in our achievements. Just the other night at our social night, which is off-site, not part of our lodge, and that particular evening, the Thursday night, is kind of more focused around Masons, but we do have some wives that come once in a while, and particularly a young couple, and they're now two children that come. Sometimes they come a little late. Anyway, they have really grown to become part of our core group, and has now, after about a year, it's taken him a little while to get connected, but he's really plugged into the lodge and wants to be an officer, and they've kind of grown up with that. And I remember back 16 years ago, that was exactly my case. I had two young kids. My wife was 8 months pregnant when I had my investigation committee, and my kids basically grew up in my lodge, visiting and being part of things. And so it was neat to see. We were talking about him becoming an officer potentially after he proves up, and she, I don't think he listened to the show, so I probably am okay saying this, but she certainly seems to dominate the conversations. Now, it could be just that she's so fascinated with Masonry and the ideas and being able to develop the social connections, but she seems to be a little more dominant in the relationship, if you will. And so, but it was interesting to see the difference in her comments on Thursday about how so proud she was and excited she was for him to become a Master Mason and then potentially to become part of the officer group as well. And she gave him a big hug in front of me. And I had never seen that connection with them until that night. And she was her eyes were starting to get red and tear up a little bit. It was just a really neat growth segment. And I don't think that could have happened without her being part of some of our social events. And then now part of our installation, that he was at installation last year, but wasn't an officer. He just attended, and he's come to some other events. And so, yeah, I agree that opening up the lodge, going off session to bring in somebody to talk about something that's maybe not Masonic, I would agree that's probably not. But I think installation is almost a public ceremony. Like, I mean, I know it's not, because there's a private option for it, but he does talk about bringing your friends and family and, to other events like dinners or whatever. And so I don't know. Yeah, I'm not crazy about them coming into the lodge room during a lodge meeting, except that I guess you would say that the installation is a lodge meeting. But see, to me, it's an extra event. It's not one of our stated meetings. Our lodge,
our installation is held on our regular meeting night.
Oh no, ours isn't. Ours is a separate special event.
Yeah, see,
Maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, and that's some lodges do that as well, and that's fine. But it's still a stated meeting, or not a stated meeting. It's still a tiled meeting, or is it not tiled? I guess yours aren't tiled.
So that's the thing, is right. There is a special, unique, what would you call it, Matt? State
Abomination. I mean, sorry, what?
Now, in our code, there's provision for the lodge to vote to hold an open installation.
Yeah.
In which case it's a public ceremony. Or if we don't, then it's a tiled installation, which has a slightly different aspect to it than an open installation does. But it's by and large the same.
They created a condition of the lodge called off session, which didn't exist previously. And so there's, you're tiled, and then there's free from restraint, which in theory, according to the code, you're supposed to be able to talk to the guy next to you, but at a single rap of the gavel, you should come back to attention, right? But then, refreshment. And then there's refreshment. In our circumstances, the Great Lights are closed at refreshment. So basically, a lodge is closed at refreshment. It's not really closed, but it's basically closed. And then they created this special status called off session, which is a unique opportunity where the Great Lights remain open, just like they do in all other jurisdictions during refreshment. And then, or a lot of jurisdictions at refreshment, the lights stay open, or the Great Lights stay open. But then it's the opportunity for the public to come into the lodge room while the Great Lights are open, is basically what it says in the code. Is called off session, which was created so that you can have a public installation. That's really what that whole thing was created for. Prove me wrong.
Nah, but we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one there, because your jurisdiction just does it that way and ours doesn't. And to me, that's just a totally foreign concept to have the open installation.
Although we do still technically have the ability to do open installations up here in BC. Almost no.
Does your Grand Master not have an open installation during his down communication?
Hell no.
Really?
God no. Why would we invite non-Masons to that?
And wait, so actually now I'm thinking, because you guys do immediately after the installation, you guys do the past master's degree thing, right?
I mean, we sit him in a chair, give him his jewel, and say, thanks very much. We'll see you in 12 years when you go right back through the chairs again. We don't have
it's only been 11.
I don't think we install, because we don't really install our immediate past masters. It's a chair that they don't, it's not like they get to go there no matter what.
Sorry, I was being unclear. When I say past master's degree, I don't mean the past master so much. Like there's a part of your ritual where only past masters can attend for the new master.
Yes, it's a board of installed masters.
There we go.
Yes, and only installed masters are allowed to attend that.
Installed.
And you do that immediately after the installation ceremony, more or less.
It's part of our installation,
right?
But not part of our installation.
The currently installed masters or previous
installed it's a board of installed masters. Once you're installed, you're installed.
Oh, I see.
So like technically I actually, like, if I were asked, I can actually sit in the east and run a meeting for my lodge if the master can't do it.
Can't because he's physically not there?
Yeah, if he's not there, he can actually go up to any past master and ask them to sit in the east for him.
Even if he's not there?
Well, if he's not there.
Well, because our...
because the problem is, okay, so here's the thing, is that if assuming that the senior, okay, now we're getting into some technical things that probably have nothing to do with this chapter and probably should not be discussed right now.
People love us for this.
People love us for this. If the senior, like, because the problem is you can't run a meeting without someone sitting in the east, and technically the senior warden is supposed to run the meeting if the master's not there. But if the senior warden isn't an installed master, he can't sit in the east.
Right. But he can sit in his chair. He can still run the meeting from his chair.
He can.
Right. And so,
but the rules, our constitution is, as stated, is that instead of doing that, the master can go to any past master and ask them to sit in the east and run the meeting.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And it's funny because we had one incident where the worshipful master wasn't going to be there. He asked the past master to sit in for him, but the senior warden took offense to that because that's his job to do. And the senior warden was a past master being recycled anyways. And so nobody argued with him. We just let him run the meeting. Right.
But in that case, who sat in the senior warden's chair?
He sat in his own chair.
Oh, and how did we pass the word?
Well, careful.
And now, as I said, that was a thing.
So that's something I don't want to steal from Canada. Thank you very much.
What, that any past master can sit in the chair?
No, ours is basically the senior warden must, if the master is not present, the senior warden must, or the junior warden must, and vice versa. And if all three of them can't be there,
you don't have a meeting.
Then it's a special deputy.
To be clear, they don't have to sit in the east; they have to be present.
No, the senior,
they can ask someone else to preside.
Not according to the code. The senior warden and the junior warden must, if the master's not present. Now the master the master can say, I want somebody. As long as he's present, he can have anybody open lodge. But if the master's not present, then the senior warden is, in theory, required to do it.
Yeah.
Interesting that he can't be. He'd have to be would have been a past master.
In order to,
you use the words. Oh, did something happen?
With what?
My thing is flashing to say I'm using a different audio devices.
You sound lovely to me.
Nope. You sound normal.
Is the word installed master specific? Like we have honorary past masters that we grant, a member that maybe is never going to go in the east, and it's just a lodge thing. He's not really, we grant him as a past master because he's never going to do it, but he's been along the lodge forever, and he's a great guy, and so we make him an honorary past master.
No, that's what the Irwin Marshmallow is.
He's not entitled to vote at our end of communication and things like that because he's not a true past master. Installed. He's not installed master.
Would you call that the Order of the Marshmallow?
No. Isn't it the Irwin Marsh Award is what we give is for Master Masons who have never sat in the east.
Oh, you mean the Medal of Merit?
Yeah, is that named after? What's the Irwin? Okay, then what was the Irwin Marsh one? Crap.
That might be it. That might be the background.
Yeah, the medal
to
of
it.
the Medal of Merit. That's
so
what we do.
We've given a medal of merit to a brother who has done a lot for Freemasonry and is very active in the lodge, but will never go through the chair and be an installed master. And so we give that a person like that the Masonic Medal of Merit.
Yeah. So, but getting back to the chapter.
But getting back to the Washington Masonic Code, you mean the master or warden acting as master may call to the east any master mason and permit him to preside or confer the degrees while the master or acting master is present.
Any master mason?
What's that last sentence?
Any master mason.
What's that last sentence?
While the master or acting master is present. So as long as the warden is in the room, he can say, "Hey, David, can you sit in the east?" That's my interpretation.
Well,
but yes, anyway, like you just said, we don't have this installed master thing. Any master mason can sit in the east in our lodges.
Interesting.
So getting back to the observant lodge.
So
what were we?
Go ahead.
Well, we were talking about having offering non-masons our stuff. I think I don't know if that we were.
I still think that there's some purposes for having the public have access to
dead air,
but not. I would agree. There's lodges that have regularly guest speakers come in that are non-Masonic into their meetings, and I get what they're trying to do. Probably they're probably trying to connect with the community or bringing in some other thing, but that could be a different day, a different ceremony, different seminar. I mean, where they could do that kind of stuff. So,
well, I think we confuse because sometimes we tend to conflate charity with Freemasonry too much. And so a lot of times I've noticed that when when a non-Mason is invited into lodge, it's to explain some kind of charitable endeavor that we want to participate in. And going back to the chapter, that because he talks about that, or he mentions that. If I can find the quote that I liked, where he says the prime focus of Freemasonry as a social doctrine is on the education and enhancement of the human mind. And then he goes on to say that patronage for the very arts and humanities about which we have always taught is the best philanthropic hand that Masonry can extend to the world. Do you guys do a scholarship?
We used to. We used to.
Because we just went through this recently at Lodge, that they went through and voted on a whole bunch of charitable donations to very worthy causes in town. Not a single one of them was education based. And
we have a scholarship program.
Yeah. And I always, my biggest issue is that we tend to focus too much on charitable philanthropy in Freemasonry and not enough on education, both of ourselves and others.
Yeah, we have a bursary that we or not a bursary. Well, we have a bursary fund that is to help support descendants of our members in furthering their education, whether it's university or college, any descendant of or a member or a spouse, if they're going to further their education at the local college at night or what have you, as long as it's a furthering education, they can apply for some money from the bursary that we have. And we have a special fund. One of the brothers who passed years ago bequeathed us $50,000, and so we have that in an investment, and the interest from that is available every year, and if it's not used, it is compounded the following year and available to any member or the descendants. I think it's a great thing to do. It's our Grand Lodge has several bursaries, but they're very stringent on their requirements. Like it has to be a 4-year degree,
and you have to. My kids never qualify because I make too much money.
Oh, really?
It's very much Matt. Well, no, but not that I'm saying, but because the thing that always bothers me is that I'll go to Grand Lodge and you'll hear people complaining about the fact that we've got these educational grants that aren't being used, but in order to qualify it, you have to be destitute.
Right, which I don't agree with.
Yeah. And so, on one hand, yes, we do have these education grants and scholarships and stuff, but the criteria to qualify are so stringent that they almost never give them all out.
Yeah. I don't think we have any income restrictions on our Grand Lodge, the Washington Masonic Services grants that I know.
Jarrod, I would join you if you wanted to put together a motion to change that. The stipulations or the requirements of that. I would help support that in taking that to Grand Lodge with you.
Okay, I'm not sure that it's actually written in our constitutions. I think it's just that we'd have to get on as trustees of the. But
no, I think we just bring it forward to the trust or to Grand Lodge to address with the trustees that they lighten up on that and not have that as a requirement. I think maybe their requirements that they want it to be a 4-year thing and a full-time student. I find that their requirements are too restrictive, and I don't see why. For example, let's say you wanted to further your education, but you've got a job, you got to support your family, and yet you're going to do this at night. So you're going to do night courses and go to lodge and do all these things. Mm-hmm. How can you fund that? I think it should be available to somebody like that. And so I would happily help you figure out how to take that to Grand Lodge. Because
cool. Yeah.
We take that to Grand Lodge.
I got another one I want you to sign off on too then.
Yeah, what's that? Got the same
not for open air.
Okay, all right.
Besides, so so how about this book?
What are your thoughts about we have about less than 10 minutes here. He talks about the progressive officer line.
Okay. Here's my thing. Okay, I think what he means, because all lines are progressive. You don't tend to go backwards. You tend to progress forwards. I think what he means is an automatic progression.
Yeah, and progression with merit is good. I like that.
Yeah, but that's still you moving from one chair. You're still progressing through the line. What he's talking about is the automatic assumption that I get elected, or in our case it's appointed senior deacon. That as soon as my year is up, I'm going to junior warden. And
but that's an elected position. That's
But what he's talking about is, but I know that it's elected. But what he's talking about is that you do one chair, next year you move on to the next chair, regardless of the job you've done. That's an automatic progression. And I agree with him that you should not progress past a chair until you've actually proven that you can do that chair well.
I agree.
Yeah. But of course,
I would argue a slight variance in that you should be progressed past that chair when you argue, then you can do the next chair well.
Well, but the problem with requiring you to do the next chair well is that when are you giving the opportunity to do the next chair?
I'm not saying perfectly. I'm not saying ideally. I'm saying maybe before you, whatever. If you're a great steward and you cook well, does not necessarily mean you're going to be a great chaplain and pray well. You should be progressed because someone thinks you're going to do a good job as chaplain. Again, not perfect, not great. Not that you've never done it before, not without stumbling. But if you can't memorize a prayer, then maybe that's not the job for you.
So you want to have test.
But David, don't you guys have some sort of proficiency thing that you have officers do before they move up?
Oh, so much would I love that.
But I mean,
we do have a program, but it's not required.
As I was reading that part of this chapter, I thought, the only way that really works is if a guy spent the time to learn like the opening and closing.
But now you're talking about ritual, and he's really talking about leadership.
No,
and I think Matt was alluding to that. It's a tangent, maybe not what he meant. But when I hear that, can you do the next part? Well, like Jarrod was saying, how do we know he's going to be a junior warden and run the events and that? He can maybe do the part, but
I'd like to say anyone can learn ritual, but I've obviously lately been proven that wrong. But my thing with this is that it's all well and good, and in a healthy lodge that has enough members, it's not an automatic progression. But when you only have enough active members to actually fill the chairs, that is when I think the problem starts, is that you start having the problem of, we got to put someone in this chair. So, let's hope they do their job properly.
Would you say that senior deacon is kind of the pivotal role for your lodges as well?
Yes.
So should a man be appointed as a senior deacon if he hasn't already proved himself in lodge as a evident leader?
Well, leadership is it's hard with the. It all depends on how you define an evident leader. So for me, because there aren't a lot of chances in lodge to show true leadership.
Really?
For someone to show the kind of leadership that you expect of the master, because there are not a lot of times where you're given that kind of, I'm going to use the buck stops here type situation.
Well, I would agree with that, but it's still, I think there's many opportunities for a man to show his ability to be a leader.
Coming attendance at lodge, doing your jobs properly is that is, but that's, I don't view that as leadership. I view that as not a leadership quality, but a quality that could morph into leadership. Because leadership requires a confidence that I think can only be developed by going through some of the chairs.
Right. One of them is a level of commitment. The other is quality of leadership.
But I mean, and I think with the not having I think at least my view, understanding of what he means with the non-progressive line is that like as Stephen said, the commitment. If you learn, because I don't know about you guys, but like all of when we have our degrees and stuff, a lot of the lower chairs have things they have to do in it. They have a little bit of ritual to memorize, or if you're the senior deacon, a smeg ton of it. That if you can do that well, learn your learn your floor work properly, come out, support your lodge, that I think that's what he's talking about for progress, not just someone who kind of is put into a chair.
But isn't a level of commitment an act of leadership? By showing what it takes to be an active and committed member is a form of leadership.
I just hate using the term leader, because whenever you think of leadership, you think of the person standing out front.
I disagree. I mean,
okay,
there that is a leader, but there's elements of leadership that go along the way.
So yes, I will agree with you that showing commitment is an element. So if we're talking like that, then yes, someone has to prove that they have the qualities required before you progress.
You're certainly going to get a different person each time. You're not going to have the same kind of leadership or same kind of leader each time, which is scary sometimes. But
and as I've also said in the past, that if a person's in a chair and they're not doing their job well, part of the fault should be laid on the lodge itself.
I 100% agree with that.
That if you allow someone to do a shite job, hopefully you two doesn't get mad at me for that one, then you get what you allow.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I don't agree. I agree that an automatic progression through the chair should not be the norm. If you should have to show the ability to take on the next level.
Yeah. The problem, like you said, really comes in when a lodge does not have enough membership, and they're grasping at the next guy that shows any level of commitment to put him into the line and start him on his way up to the east, so that they can keep the officers' chairs full, and rather than holding the line for a year and or 2 years and letting other guys get better, properly prepared and trained. That would be the better thing to do,
Right.
in my opinion. But that's just my opinion.
I kind of feel like we're all in agreement here, and we're all just arguing for the sake of arguing. We're not that we're arguing, but I think
We're all past
like
masters. Of course, we're arguing for the sake of arguing.
So with that, I think we're going to wrap up our discussion of Chapter 8 here. As usual, I want to thank you all for listening. We're going to be, as we wrap up the Observing the Craft, we're going to be moving into a couple of interviews. We've had some contact from brothers out in the wild who have opinions on some things that we've said, generally that they want to argue with us. And so we're going to have them in as guests over the next couple of episodes, so that we can tell them why they're wrong and that we're right, and we can educate them into what the one true meaning of all these things is. So please look forward to that. We're going to have our I don't know, should we announce their names here? Are we ready for it? So I think currently on tap are Very Worshipful Brother Clayton Levine, who is the Assistant Grand Secretary of Washington, and also Very Worshipful Brother Zane McCune, has been on the show a couple times before, and has he's a member of one of the more observanter, I would say, lodges in Washington, and one of the movers and shakers there.
They're on the list.
And so if you want to argue with us, please let us know, again, through the YouTube, through the various social media that we're on. We'd be happy to hear from you and discuss, again, why we're right. Not that we could ever agree, even when we're agreeing on something, as previously mentioned, we argue about it. So with that, thank you all for listening to the Working Tools podcast. We look forward to talking to you again soon. On behalf of Stephen and myself and Jarrod and David, we hope that you have a good week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks. Goodbye.